The spiritual awakening is a silent and transformative journey, a passage that doesn't require passports but a willingness to go beyond the familiar, beyond the usual definitions of who we believe we are. It's the call echoing deep within the soul, subtle at first but impossible to ignore as it awakens something profound within us. A quest for meaning, a thirst for connection, a sense that there is something more. For many, the awakening begins with a slight restlessness, like a question hanging in the air without an answer. Perhaps it's a significant event, an unexpected loss, or a life change that prompts us to question everything that once seemed solid. Or maybe it's something as subtle as looking up at a starry sky and, for the first time, feeling the weight of infinity. It's a moment of recognition, though incomplete, that the reality we know is merely the tip of the iceberg. However, this call isn't answered by everyone. Many live their lives caught in the rhythms of a world that values the immediate and the tangible. They find comfort in routines, in promises of safety, and the illusion of control. But for those who hear and choose to follow the call, an entirely new journey begins to unfold. And it's not an easy journey. It's not a straight path to enlightenment but a road full of twists, ups and downs, doubts and revelations. The nature of spiritual awakening is continuous. It's not something to be achieved or that has an end point. It's like the blooming of a flower, a constant expansion toward the light, layer by layer. Each stage brings new challenges, new understandings, but also a peace that gradually replaces the restlessness that once ruled the mind. There's no rush in awakening because it isn't measured by time but by the depth of experience. And while only a small percentage of people may reach the highest stages of this journey, every step taken is significant, every insight a gift. At the beginning, awakening often brings a sense of being called to something greater. It's as if an invisible door opens, revealing a glimpse of a vaster, more meaningful world. But this initial vision comes with questions, uncertainties, and even resistance. Why me? Where is this leading? What must I leave behind to move forward? These questions don't have easy answers but are essential to the process. This call is a reminder, an awakening of something that has always been within you but was obscured by the demands and distractions of daily life. And as you respond to this call, you realize that the journey isn't about achieving something external but rediscovering what is already inherently yours. The signs of internal transformation are like silent beacons, guiding us through the initial darkness of spiritual awakening. As we respond to the call and take the first steps on the journey, we begin to notice subtle but profound changes in how we see the world and ourselves. These changes often appear unexpectedly, catching us off guard, and can be unsettling. Yet they are clear signs that something within us is shifting, changing, expanding. One of the first signs of transformation is the gradual detachment from the material world. This doesn't mean abandoning responsibilities or renouncing all the pleasures of life, but there is a shift in perspective. What once seemed to be the source of security and happiness begins to lose its allure. Material possessions, social status, external validation, all these things start to feel ephemeral, temporary. You realize that, no matter how much comfort they bring, they aren't the answer to the deeper restlessness within you. This realization can bring a mix of relief and discomfort, as if the solid ground beneath your feet is beginning to vanish. But this initial instability is necessary for you to start seeking a truer, more lasting foundation. Another common experience is feeling out of place in the world around you. It's as if you're watching life happen rather than being a part of it. What once felt natural and familiar now seems strange, disconnected. You become an observer, noticing things that previously went unnoticed. The superficial conversations, the frantic rush for something undefined, the repetitive patterns people follow without questioning. This sense of disconnection can feel isolating, but it's also a sign that you're beginning to detach from the illusions that kept your attention tied to the transient. This internal transformation can also manifest as heightened sensitivity. You begin to feel emotions more intensely, both your own and those of others. The beauty of nature might move you to tears, while another person's pain can feel almost unbearable. This sensitivity is both a gift and a challenge, as it invites you to connect more deeply with the world while also requiring you to learn how to protect yourself from emotional overwhelm. As these internal changes unfold, you might experience a conflict between the person you were and the person you are becoming. Your old priorities, beliefs, and habits may clash with this emerging perspective. Friends and family may not understand what is happening to you, and this can heighten the sense of isolation. However, this conflict is a sign of growth. It indicates that you are beginning to question what once seemed obvious, breaking away from old patterns to create space for something new. One of the most beautiful aspects of this transformation is the growing sense of connection to something greater. This can be hard to put into words, but it's a realization that there is a force or presence guiding your journey, something that has always been there but that you are now beginning to consciously recognize. This connection can arise in moments of silence, in nature, in deep conversations, or even in synchronicities that seem more than mere coincidence. It's as if the universe begins to whisper, saying, "You're on the right path." However, it's important to remember that these signs of internal transformation aren't always comfortable. They can bring confusion, resistance, and even fear. You might wonder if you're losing control or drifting away from everything you know. But these feelings are part of the process. They are the first steps on a journey that will lead you to greater clarity, peace, and authenticity. This internal transformation is the fertile ground where new possibilities begin to sprout. It's the space where the old is dissolved so that the new can emerge. And while the path may be challenging, it is also profoundly rewarding, because each step brings you closer to your true essence. The encounter with the true self is perhaps the most profound and transformative point of the spiritual awakening journey. It is a moment of rupture and revelation, where the layers we've built over a lifetime, beliefs, roles, labels, and identities, begin to dissolve. What emerges from this process isn't something new but something that has always been present, waiting patiently to be recognized. Your timeless, boundless, and divine essence. At the heart of this encounter is the dissolution of the ego. The ego, as many understand it, isn't an evil entity or something to be entirely eliminated. It's a construct, a tool we use to navigate the material world. It gives us a sense of identity, of separateness, and is essential in many practical aspects of life. However, the ego is, by nature, limited. It relies on comparisons, on stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what we have, and what we've achieved. And as long as we remain identified with it, our view of the world and ourselves remains constrained. The process of dissolving the ego can be uncomfortable because the ego resists. It fights to maintain control, to preserve the narrative it has built over the years. This resistance can manifest as fear, doubt, or even a sense of emptiness. After all, if you aren't the stories you tell yourself, then who are you? This question may seem frightening, but it's also the key to a greater freedom. As the ego begins to dissolve, what arises is the realization that you are not these stories. You are not your profession, your achievements, your failures, or even your body. These are temporary expressions but do not define your essence. What you truly are is the awareness observing all of this, the silent witness behind every thought, emotion, and experience. This recognition is often described as a sense of awakening. It's not something that can be fully understood by the logical mind because it transcends thought. It's a direct experience of knowing that, at your core, you are limitless. This true self is unaffected by external circumstances. It is constant, unchanging, a point of peace amidst the chaos. Meeting the true self doesn't mean the ego disappears entirely. It will still be there, playing its role in the material world. But the difference is that you no longer identify with it. You realize you can use it as a tool without being dominated by it. This shift brings incredible lightness because you no longer feel the need to prove anything or protect an identity that is, at its core, fragile and transient. This connection to the true self also brings a sense of completeness. Often, we seek outside ourselves for something we feel is missing: love, validation, success. But when you encounter your essence, you realize you are already complete. There is nothing outside of you that can add to or take away from who you truly are. This realization dissolves the constant desire to search, replacing it with deep gratitude for what already is. One of the most striking characteristics of this encounter is the peace it brings. It's not a superficial peace dependent on external circumstances, but a peace that is present regardless of what is happening around you. This peace arises because you stop resisting what is. You begin to accept reality as it unfolds, knowing that, at the deepest level, nothing can threaten your true essence. However, this acceptance doesn't mean passivity. On the contrary, it allows you to act from a place of clarity and authenticity. Your actions are no longer driven by fear or the desire to please but are guided by your connection to the divine within you. The encounter with the true self is not something that happens all at once. It is an experience that can come in moments of clarity and deepen over time. The journey to live from this space requires practice, patience, and intention. But each moment you touch this truth serves as a reminder of who you truly are, and every step in this direction transforms your life in profound ways. Peace amidst chaos is one of the most extraordinary manifestations of spiritual awakening. It is not a peace that depends on external circumstances or the absence of challenges, but a deep serenity that emerges from within, like an anchor amidst the storms of life. This peace is a direct reflection of your connection with the true self, of your understanding that behind all changes and uncertainties lies an unchanging essence that is always stable. In the world we live in, where instability seems to be the norm and the frenetic pace often pulls us in all directions, finding this peace can seem impossible. Yet, it is precisely in these moments of chaos that spiritual awakening reveals its power. The moment you begin to see reality through the lens of your divine essence, you realize that chaos is, in fact, an illusion of the mind, a reaction to the unknown, to what we cannot control. When you stop resisting reality, something magical happens. The inner struggle ceases. This acceptance is not resignation. Accepting does not mean agreeing with everything or relinquishing your ability to act. Instead, it means letting go of the resistance that causes so much suffering. It is surrendering to the present moment exactly as it is, trusting that even in the most difficult situations, there is a greater purpose at play. Imagine a tranquil lake. Even when the wind blows hard and waves disturb its surface, the depths remain calm. Similarly, when you are connected to the true self, you can observe the disturbances of life without identifying with them. You realize that thoughts, emotions, and circumstances come and go like waves, but there is something deeper, more permanent within you. This peace is not something you achieve. It is something you rediscover. It has always been there, waiting for you, hidden beneath layers of fear, expectation, and worry. When you peel back these layers, even if just for a moment, peace naturally emerges like the sun behind the clouds. Practices such as meditation and mindfulness help cultivate this peace. They train you to observe the flow of thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them. When you sit in silence, breathing deeply, you begin to realize that you do not have to react to every thought that arises, to every emotion that passes through you. You discover that you can simply be present as the observer. And in this state of presence, peace becomes palpable. Radical acceptance is another fundamental aspect of this peace. Often, we fight against reality because it does not align with our expectations. We want things to be different, for people to act a certain way, for our lives to follow a specific script. But reality is what it is. When you learn to accept this, even if it is painful or challenging, you realize that this acceptance brings a sense of lightness. This does not mean you will not work to change circumstances, but that you will do so from a place of serenity rather than resistance. This peace also has a transformative effect on how you interact with people and events around you. When you are at peace with yourself, you become a catalyst for peace in others. Your presence becomes calming, your energy conveys safety and balance. You become a living example that it is possible to find serenity even amidst turmoil. Moreover, this peace empowers you to face challenges with greater clarity and courage. When you are not trapped in anxiety or reactivity, you can make more conscious and effective decisions. The external chaos may continue, but it does not define your internal experience. You discover that you can act with purpose, even when the path ahead seems uncertain. Living from this peace does not mean you will never again feel fear or doubt. These feelings are part of the human experience, but the difference is that you learn not to cling to them. You watch them pass like clouds in the sky and return to your internal anchor. When you find this peace, you realize that it does not depend on anything external. It is not in the things you own, the people around you, or favorable circumstances. It is yours by right, a reflection of your divine essence. And the more you connect with it, the more it expands, transforming your experience of life. The discovery of unity is one of the most profound and transformative aspects of spiritual awakening. It is a revelation that transcends the boundaries of logical thought and leads us to viscerally experience that there is no real separation between self and other, between the individual and the whole. It is as if, for the first time, the veils that kept us isolated from the rest of the universe are lifted, revealing an intricate web of interconnections that unites everything and everyone. On an intellectual level, many of us have heard of this idea. Spiritual texts, ancient philosophies, and even modern science suggest that we are all connected, that we are part of a universal field of energy and consciousness. But understanding this with the mind is different from experiencing this truth in the heart and soul. The discovery of unity is not just a concept. It is a living experience that forever changes the way you see yourself and the world around you. This realization can arise in many ways. For some, it happens in moments of deep meditation or contemplation. For others, it is triggered by an encounter with nature, like gazing at the starry sky or feeling the sound of the ocean. In these experiences, you may feel a fusion, as if the boundaries between you and what is outside of you disappear. It is a feeling of expansion, of being both one with the whole and entirely yourself. This paradox is one of the most fascinating aspects of unity. On one hand, you realize that everything is interconnected, that every leaf, every person, every star is part of a single fabric of existence. On the other hand, you feel a deep individuality, a uniqueness that is an essential part of this interconnectedness. There is no conflict between being unique and being part of the whole. In fact, these two aspects complement and enrich each other. However, the discovery of unity can also bring an initial sense of aloneness, not loneliness in the usual sense, but an understanding that ultimately, you are responsible for your own journey as everything you seek is already within you. This aloneness can be unsettling, but it is also incredibly liberating. It frees you from the constant search for external validation and reconnects you to inner wholeness. When you realize there is no separation, your relationship with the world changes drastically. The other ceases to be seen as a stranger or an opponent and begins to be recognized as an extension of yourself. This does not mean you will always agree with everyone or that differences will disappear. But you will start to see beyond appearances, to perceive the shared essence that connects all beings. This perception of unity also brings a profound responsibility. When you understand that your actions, thoughts, and words not only affect you but ripple through the entire web of existence, you begin to live with greater awareness. Every choice you make, even the small ones, becomes a sacred act, an opportunity to contribute to the harmony or imbalance of the whole. Furthermore, the discovery of unity transforms how you deal with suffering. You realize that another person's suffering is not something distant or separate from you. It is a shared pain, an expression of something that touches us all. This understanding does not overwhelm you but inspires you to act with compassion and empathy, knowing that by helping others, you are also helping yourself. At the same time, unity is not something you need to achieve. It is already present here and now. It is the natural state of existence, and spiritual awakening is simply the process of removing the illusions that prevent you from perceiving it. This means there is no effort to be made, only a relaxing into the truth that is already yours. Practices such as meditation, silence, and connection with nature can help deepen your experience of unity. These practices do not create unity but help you recognize what is already there. When you sit in silence, breathe deeply, and allow your mind to slow down, you may begin to feel the energy that connects everything around you, a vibrant field of life and consciousness. The discovery of unity is an experience that cannot be fully described in words because it transcends the realm of the intellect. But once you experience it even for a moment, it transforms your perception forever. You realize that separation is only an illusion and that, at the core, everything you seek is already within you because you are the whole. The transformation into pure love is the pinnacle of the spiritual journey, the stage where all barriers between you and the world dissolve, leaving only an energy that permeates everything. Unconditional love. This love is not the same as what is often associated with attachment, passion, or the conditions surrounding human relationships. It is a state of being, a universal force that transcends logic and expectations. It is the recognition that love is not something you give or receive but something you are. This state of pure love arises naturally from the discovery of unity. When you realize there is no separation between you and others, judgment begins to fade. You stop seeing people as good or bad, right or wrong, and start seeing them as unique expressions of the same universal field of energy. This understanding does not mean ignoring actions or behaviors that cause suffering but rather approaching them with compassion instead of condemnation. Pure love demands nothing in return. It is not attached to outcomes or reliant on reciprocity. It is like the sun, shining for everyone regardless of how it is received. This unconditional quality of pure love makes it incredibly powerful because it is not bound by the limitations of the ego. It simply flows, unrestricted, touching and transforming everything around it. When you begin to live in this state, your relationship with the world changes drastically. What once was seen as a threat or challenge is now approached as an opportunity for growth. Conflicts and difficulties become less about winning or losing and more about finding harmony. This shift in perspective transforms how you interact with others, creating more authentic and profound connections. This transformation into pure love also profoundly affects how you relate to yourself. Many of us carry harsh judgments, regrets, or a sense of inadequacy. But by connecting with the unconditional love that is your essence, you begin to see yourself with the same compassion and acceptance you offer to the world. You realize you are worthy of love, not because of what you do or achieve, but simply because you exist. Living in this state of love does not mean you will be immune to pain or suffering. Feeling pure love is not about becoming indifferent to the world. It is, in fact, the opposite. You feel everything more deeply, but from a place of acceptance. Pain, both your own and others, is no longer something to be avoided but embraced as part of the fabric of human experience. And in this embrace, you discover that love has the power to transmute even the most difficult emotions. This transformation into love also brings a quiet, constant joy that does not depend on external circumstances. It is not the fleeting euphoria that comes and goes, but a deep and lasting contentment. It is the joy of simply being, of being present, of participating in this cosmic dance called life. And this joy becomes a gift you share with everyone you meet, often without even needing to say a word. For many, the practice of living in pure love begins with small gestures. It can be something as simple as offering a genuine smile to a stranger, listening to someone with full attention, or forgiving a mistake, whether your own or someone else's. These acts, however small they may seem, are tangible expressions of the greater love that resides within you. The transformation into pure love also challenges us to love even where it seems impossible. To love does not mean to approve of everything or permit harmful behaviors. It means recognizing shared humanity, even in those who are deeply disconnected from themselves. This kind of love requires courage because it often goes against our instinctive reactions of defense or judgment. Yet, it is precisely this love that holds the power to heal wounds, build bridges, and transform lives. As you practice living in this state, you realize that pure love is not just a feeling, it is a frequency, an energy that you emanate. This energy has a real and measurable impact on the world around you. Scientific studies have already shown that loving intention can positively influence health, relationships, and even the physical environment. But more than any external validation, you feel within yourself the transformative power of this love. Living in pure love is not something that happens all at once. It is a practice, a path that you walk with intention and patience. But with each step, you discover that this love was always there, waiting to be recognized and expressed. And when you live in this way, you realize that love is the foundation of everything, of creation, of connection, of life itself. The challenges of the path are inevitable in the journey of spiritual awakening, especially as we begin to live aligned with pure love and new consciousness. Although awakening brings peace, clarity, and connection, it also requires us to face the darkest aspects of ourselves and the world. These challenges are not obstacles to be avoided but gateways to deeper growth. They show us where we are still trapped in the ego, where we still resist the natural flow of life, and where we carry patterns that need to be transformed. One of the most common challenges is the ego's final resistance. Even after moments of clarity and connection, the ego often returns, trying to reassert its presence. It can manifest as doubt, fear, or a desire to return to normal. This resistance is natural because the ego, at its core, is a construct based on control and separation. When we begin to dissolve it, it tries to protect itself, fearing the loss of its identity. One of the more subtle forms of this resistance is spiritual pride. As we progress on the path, we may begin to identify with our spiritual journey, seeing ourselves as more awakened or more evolved than others. This is a sign that the ego has found a new mask, a new way to assert itself. Spiritual pride can lead us to judge or distance ourselves from those who are still caught in patterns we have overcome, forgetting that everyone is exactly where they need to be on their own journeys. Another significant challenge is isolation. Awakening often leads us to see the world in a very different way, and this can create a sense of disconnection from those around us. Friends, family, and colleagues who are still deeply identified with the ego or the material world may not understand the changes we are going through. This can feel lonely, but it is important to remember that solitude is temporary. As you align more deeply with your essence, you will attract people who share your frequency and can support your journey. This isolation also brings a unique responsibility. When we awaken to new consciousness, we realize that we can no longer live dishonestly or out of alignment. This means acting with integrity, even when it is difficult, and taking responsibility for our choices. This responsibility may feel heavy at first, but it is actually a source of freedom. By living in alignment with our truth, we free ourselves from external pressures and begin to live more authentically. Another challenge of the path is dealing with the world around us. As we awaken, we become more sensitive to pain and suffering, both in ourselves and others. We may feel an urgency to fix the world, to change injustices and alleviate the suffering we perceive. However, it is important to remember that we cannot carry the weight of the world alone. Our role is not to save the world but to transform ourselves. When we do so, we naturally inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect of change. The traps of the ego, isolation, and a sense of responsibility are not the only challenges. There is also the need to overcome doubt. The spiritual path does not come with guarantees, and we often wonder if we are on the right path, if the changes we feel are real or just temporary. Doubt can be paralyzing, but it is also an opportunity to strengthen our faith. When we confront doubt, we are invited to return to our center, trust our intuition, and remember that growth is not linear. Even moments of uncertainty are part of the process. Overcoming these challenges requires courage and compassion. Courage to look within and face our shadows, and compassion to treat ourselves kindly along the way. We do not need to be perfect. Awakening is not about achieving an ideal but about becoming more human, more whole. And this includes accepting our imperfections and learning from them. One of the most powerful ways to face these challenges is to remember that you are not alone. There is a greater force guiding your journey, a divine wisdom working behind the scenes, even when you cannot see it. This force is always by your side, offering signs, support, and comfort. As you learn to trust this guidance, the challenges begin to feel less threatening and more like part of a greater plan. Moreover, the challenges of the path are opportunities to integrate the lessons we have learned. They help us put into practice what we know intellectually, turning knowledge into wisdom. Each obstacle overcome is a reminder of our strength and resilience, a step toward a more aligned and authentic version of ourselves. The flow of life is a continuous dance between intention and surrender, between action and acceptance. It does not require control but trust. It does not demand rigidity but flexibility. Living aligned with the flow is recognizing that life is not happening to you but through you, as an expression of something infinitely greater and, at the same time, deeply intimate. This awareness begins to emerge when we realize that much of our suffering comes from trying to force life to conform to our expectations. We often fight against what is, insist on a specific outcome, or cling to the past, resisting the natural movement of the present. This resistance is like trying to swim against a current. It exhausts us and, in the end, keeps us stuck in the same place. Aligning with the flow of life means learning to trust. Trust in the present moment, in the wisdom of the universe, and in the unique journey you are on. This trust is not passive. It does not mean sitting and waiting for everything to happen without effort. On the contrary, it is an active state of openness, where you make decisions and take action but without attachment to the results. It is recognizing that, while you can plant the seeds, the blooming happens in its own time in life's rhythm. One of the clearest ways to experience the flow is through synchronicities. These small, meaningful accidents, where everything seems to align perfectly, are signs that you are in harmony with the universe. It could be meeting the right person at the exact moment, receiving an unexpected answer to a question, or noticing how a series of seemingly disconnected events form a pattern. These moments are not mere coincidences. They are reminders that a greater intelligence is guiding everything. To align with the flow, it is essential to cultivate presence. The present moment is the only place where the flow of life truly happens. When you are distracted by the past or anxious about the future, you lose connection with the now, which is where all creation occurs. Presence invites you to slow down, observe, and trust that each moment is exactly as it should be. This trust also teaches us the art of patience. In a world that values speed and immediate results, being patient can seem counterintuitive. But the flow of life has its own rhythm, and learning to respect that rhythm is one of the greatest acts of wisdom. Sometimes, silence and waiting are just as important as action. They give us the necessary space to reflect, adjust, and allow things to unfold naturally. However, trusting the flow does not mean you will never face challenges or moments of uncertainty. These moments are part of the journey, but when you are aligned, you begin to see them differently. Instead of resisting or despairing, you can view them as opportunities for growth, as lessons helping you become stronger and more aware. The flow of life does not eliminate difficulties, but it empowers you to face them with greater clarity and courage. One of the most transformative aspects of the flow is how it connects us with intuition. When you are present and open, your intuition becomes clearer, guiding you with subtlety and precision. You begin to realize that the answers you seek are not always out there, but within you, waiting to be heard. This intuitive connection is one of the most direct ways to align with the flow because it connects you to the universal wisdom already present in your essence. As you live in this state of alignment, you start to notice that things flow more easily. This does not mean everything will always be perfect or that there will be no challenges, but you feel a lightness, an underlying harmony that carries you even through difficult moments. Your actions become more effective because they are rooted in clarity, not resistance. The flow of life also teaches us the importance of letting go of control. Often, we believe we need to plan, organize, and control every detail for things to go right, but control is an illusion. The more we try to grasp it, the further we drift from the natural flow. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means trusting that, as you do your part, the universe will do its part too. This surrender is not an act of weakness but of strength. It takes courage to let go of the known and embrace uncertainty. When you let go, you create space for something greater to enter your life, something you may not have even known you needed. It is in this space of openness that the true miracle of the flow happens. Ultimately, aligning with the flow of life is an invitation to freedom. It is living with an open heart, a quiet mind, and the trust that you are exactly where you need to be. When you surrender to this state, you realize that life is not something you need to control or conquer but something you can participate in with joy, curiosity, and love.